Hey folks, so when I left Silicon Valley last year, March 2019, little did I know that my life would turn out the way it is today. One of the main reasons I left was that I wanted to do my postdoc. And I had just graduated with my grad studies. And after having worked in Silicon Valley for 10 years while doing undergrad and grad school, I really felt the need that I wanted to dedicate my postdoc to something that I was really interested in. And so I developed a way in which I could bring neuroscience, more specifically brain frequencies, into improving and developing products at a business level. And that is what I wanted to focus my postdoc upon. And so after pretty much sleeping the first 3 months when I left Silicon Valley, I'm not kidding, because I was so burned out after 10 years of constant work. I had to sleep for 3 months, and I'm not kidding. But I spent the remaining 9 months, and I was able to actually find two big companies who were interested in my work, and this was like big, very big accounts. Really cool, really exciting, and then COVID happened. So they pulled back because, of the uncertainties. And then here I was left without these potential clients, and also COVID hit and there was quarantine. And so that really made me shift the focus that I had. And one of the first thing that happened was for me to realize that I used to be in a tech bubble when I was in Silicon Valley, because when you live there and when you work there, and that's pretty much all you do, because when you're in that level, or in that situation, I should say, for me, I really needed to focus on what I was doing and more or less being obsessed with it. Otherwise, you're not able to achieve anything. And so you live in this tech bubble. So for me, artificial intelligence, robotics, virtual reality, all those good stuff were just normal day-to-day conversation, and extremely excited for a person such as myself and the rest of the people in the tech, because it's always about evolving and creating. And so while you still think a lot about how users would potentially use these creations, you don't think as much about people who are extremely concerned about their privacy. And if you're having conversations about people's privacy, is at a different level. And that is one of the things that I got exposed to after COVID, because I started interacting with people who did not have tech background. And because of COVID, a lot of issues and a lot of topics became revealed, and it made me and forced me kind of think in terms of how people who are non-tech would actually see the world of high tech, in this case artificial. And so very quickly, after maybe just a month of quarantine, I came out of my bubble of being just very much into tech and artificial intelligence, robotics, and started seeing that why many people are concerned and are freaking out, and for the right reason and very legit. And so that actually, believe it or not, was a blessing in disguise, I guess, because it also shifted my postdoc from focusing on businesses into gearing it more towards humanity, the humane level of the techs, and the humane level of artificial intelligence. among other things. And so for me to now shift this postdoc towards these topics is extremely exciting, and I'm extremely grateful about it, and I appreciate it because at a spiritual level, I do feel much more content, mainly because also all these years that I was in tech and extremely inundated in tech, along with my own grad studies, I never lost sight of my own soul and spirituality because I was always interested in that as well. I took years of classes, meditation classes. I don't mention names, but I give them a lot of credit in terms of who I am today. But I tend to not, for their privacy, I don't want to sort of mention that. But that is beside what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that I get it. I get that a lot of people are very concerned about artificial intelligence, about the future of humanity and whatnot. And here's my message to those of you who are in that situation. One thing I notice is that a lot of people are just scared without really knowing much in-depth information about it, because they hear things third hand, even fourth hand sometimes, second hand, and they're not able to maybe see the full picture. And so if you are one of those people, I highly recommend and suggest that you watch interviews with Jeff Brown, Jeff Brown, who used to be at IBM. I used to work at IBM too, and I was at some point at conferences at IBM Watson, and he will give you a great insight about the future of artificial intelligence and where it's going, and also even the timeline. And so if you are not aware of this yet, artificial intelligence is already here. You're already using a lot of those products. You may or may not know about it, and it's just going to get more. The artificial intelligence that we are using today is very in its infancy, but the ones that are in the labs and they are in the works, they're called AGI or ASI, which comes way in the future. And I've given some talks about that as well. And if you're not familiar with AGI and ASI, I highly recommend that you read some of those as well, because it is inevitable. It is coming. And I want to give you a little bit of an overview as to what's about to come. So way back in 2015, that was the first time I gave one of the talks that I had where I talked about the extension of human brain with computers. And then after that, Neuralink came along, and obviously there were a lot of amazing scientists and people in the works as well. And my talk and my stance of it was more about the humane aspect of it. So it was not that sort of programming, technical, developing hardware, software of it, but it was more about using human brain waves in terms of the emotions that humans are feeling, such that we were able to create these robots and artificial intelligence more from a humanity level, more humanizing those products. And if you happen to watch Jeff Brown's interview, you can search for Jeff Brown 5G AI. His interviews are on YouTube. Extremely intelligent person, and he will give you insight, the inside scoop of what's going on, because I was never part of those teams, but he was. But nonetheless, from my experience and from all that, is that the way in which we used to operate in this world up until today will drastically change within the next few years. The technology that we have right now, most of them have not reached the mainstream product usage yet, but they will in the next few years, and a lot of jobs will be gone. And I'm kind of in between, because I see where people that are working on these technologies coming from, but I also see people who are extremely concerned about these. So I see both sides. But the fact that it's in the works, and it's been in the works for the past 10, 15 years, will make it such that it's inevitable. And a lot of these jobs that we've been doing, or humans have been doing up until now, mainly the ones that are kind of mundane, they will no longer exist. And if you want to know which jobs there are, on Amazon Prime, there are several documentaries. If you just look for AI, robotics, and jobs and things like that, you will be able to see them. So you can watch those documentaries as well. But just to give you an eagle-eye view in terms of the jobs that will no longer be, are jobs that have, for example, a lot to do with data entry, or information search, which was also, by the way, part that I dedicated most of my dissertation towards, because I combine neuroscience and information science. And also the jobs such as even in legal jobs, in even medical, even food delivery, truck drivers, etc. There is a lot of jobs that are in the process of extinction, but I don't want to alarm you guys, because there is still hope. The hope that it still exists is that while a lot of jobs will disappear, and they are already disappearing, there is a opportunity for humans to work alongside with these technologies. Because in the future, and IBM Watson, by the way, has already launched this in the medical world, is that even medical doctors will not be able to do their jobs in the future without their artificial intelligence assistance, if you will. And so, because what artificial intelligence does is that it gathers massive amount of data, current data, historical data, and it makes an assessment. And that will, in this case, help medical doctors to do their jobs. Or, for example, for lawyers, up until now, they had paralegals who help them. But as we speak, we have artificial intelligence software that are able to do a much better job than a paralegal would do in a fraction of a time to help the lawyer, for example. And what these software do, with these artificial softwares do, is that they have massive amount of data within the part of their software. So the lawyer, for example, can extremely efficiently and very quickly get help of these artificial intelligence software, as opposed to paralegal, to get the information they need in order for them to, example, go to the court. So it's extremely efficient, and there's no basically human needed involved. Or let's take the food industry, for example. There are robots, as we speak today, who are able to even work as a barista. So they are making amazing coffee, and they are, they look like robots, but they do it. I know it's a little bit scary if you're not familiar with that world, but if you want to familiarize yourself, there's a lot of these videos on YouTube. You can just search for robotics and all that. Japan has been doing an amazing job in terms of creating these robots. And also, a lot of robots are becoming emotionally intelligent, and that is also kind of the part that I was getting into prior to this postdoc that I was talking about. For example, there are robots today that they look exactly like human beings. If you haven't seen their videos, they're on YouTube. They are able to emotionally even express in terms of their facial expression. And with the use of AI, they have access to a sea of information, so they're even able to have a intelligent conversation that also includes human emotions in it. So these are very, very in the works, and they have been in the works for the past 10-20 years. And so if you're one of those who are a little bit concerned, please watch these videos. Now, what can we do in order to protect ourselves and also the future of our jobs? One way, the first way, is to really come in terms with the fact that this is inevitable. And I know a lot of people don't like it. I don't like it. I am all for humanity. If you are familiar with my work, that's what I do. But I'm also a very practical person, knowing that if something is in the works and I am able to reinvent myself, then it's just a matter of me being flexible enough to do that. And so one way we could do that is to first and foremost becoming aware of it. This is something that is in the works, it's coming. And second, to make an assessment of our lives and see how we can reinvent ourselves so that in the future we're also part of this. Because once we start learning, we are able to adapt and be more flexible, and also make sure that our lives, as well as our families' lives and also our community's life, is more secure, and we're able to sort of be part of this. And that we could do through self-educating. If you're, for example, interested in programming, the programming language of Python at the moment is the core of artificial intelligence programming. If you're interested, you can teach yourself with zero money. You actually don't need money to learn Python. It's open source, and it's also, a lot of these are free online, and you can just search for it, and there's a lot of courses you can learn. If you're not familiar with artificial intelligence, there's a ton of information online for free, where you can also just search for example, artificial intelligence at a very basic level, and just teach yourself about what it actually is and what does it actually do. If you're not into the programming aspect of it or the technical aspect of it, maybe you're in sales, you could teach yourself to be in sales when it comes to the artificial intelligence products, because they do need sales. Or if you have business background and you are great at business development, these companies also would need business developers in the future. So you can also see how you can gear yourself more towards that. One thing also I want to mention is that there are two very, very huge countries that are extremely, extremely developed when it comes to artificial intelligence. I'm not going to name the name of these countries, because sometimes when I do, people think that it's about racism. Guys, I'm not a racist. I was born a minority. I'm a brown person myself, so there's nothing like that. But for some reason, people get those ideas. But I think you know which countries there are. So if you think that these countries have a lot of power today on the United States, think again. because in 5-10 years from now, they will have even more power because they've already invested in artificial intelligence in the past 10-15 years. And so if you are an American and you are in the United States and you love America and you want to be part of it, one major thing that you could do is to really get into the parts where you can also be influential in the future, because otherwise these two countries will be extremely influential in the United States, and that is when I think a lot of people will not like what it's about to come. If you're into politics, you can go into FCC. FCC has been infiltrated with a lot of people from certain countries, and so as a result, they make a lot of decisions that is more geared towards actually their countrymen. So if you want to be influential in that sense, you can go into, for example, finding a job at the FCC and try to influence the regulations that way. Because guys, we need good people in the industry who are morally good, because while these technologies are amazing and most people who are working on them are excited mainly because the development of human creative processes, many of them they have questionable morals. And so if you're a person who is morally a good person, we need you. I highly suggest that you get involved in that sense so that you can influence. A lot of people are not happy with the way things have turned out in 2020, and I get it, guys. I'm one of you. I totally get it. But I'm also, as I mentioned, a practical person. And when I see an issue, I think in the future and think, okay, how can I be influential in this field in the future? And so that is one thing that each and every one of us American people can do from now, so that let's say 5 years from now, if you start your mission right now, if you decide what you want to do, let's say, and you spend the next 5 years to, let's say, teach yourself programming or go into FCC or whatever your choice is, 5 years from now, you would also be an influential person in this field. And it's a much better stance to be in for us to be influential in a field as opposed to just be a complainer. Because most people go on social media and they just complain and they say, this country did this to us, that country did that to us. But if we take more of our time to learn about how to become part of this field and be influential, then in the near future, we will be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Because whether we like it or not, this thing is coming, things are changing, a lot of jobs won't be coming back, and they've been already in the works for the past 10 years. People were not aware of it just because maybe they don't, watch these news or videos. Also, if you're not subscribed to these tech news, it's really good to subscribe to them, because on a daily basis, they announce the development and most recent tech-related deals, and that would also give you a great information as to where things are headed. One of them is called TechCrunch, TECH, Crunch, CHRUNC.com. And if you start subscribing to it and start looking at the news that they publish on a daily basis, after a while you see a pattern. You see which countries are infiltrating in the field of artificial intelligence. You will also see all these million and billion-dollar deals that are being made as we speak. And so that would also give you a good information as to the pattern that all these development are happening. That way you put yourself in a better position to make sound decision about your future and your family's future and your community's future, because there's only so long we can resist. There will come a time where the powers of tech will evolve, and if we are part of this morally good people who are in the field, we will be able to influence a lot of these decisions in the future and hopefully work more towards the human morality, humanity, spirituality, as opposed to just get rid of everything. And one last thing I want to say is that there are many people out there who are creating content that we should be careful about. So I highly suggest that whoever creates a content, let it be it a video such as this one or blogs and whatnot, look at their background. If they are anonymous, if they don't tell you their background, and if they actually don't have relevant backgrounds, I'd be very careful listening to them, because a lot of people either copyright other people's work, or they just make stuff up and it's not really their field. So just so that you protect yourself, be sure that whatever content you consume, you know who's actually behind it. I started speaking about these things just recently because I was working in the background for many years, and also making videos and content like this is really not my forte. But I did it because one of the things I noticed was that there were a lot of fake information out there with fake people. Some of them have even copied my work. So be careful. I just feel I feel sorry for those people who copy work, but also at the same time I understand that, you know, people, it is what it is, but just so that you protect yourself. So be careful about the source of information that you're getting. And if you see that a person or content creators don't have enough background, take it with a grain of salt, such that you protect yourself about making proper decisions, and not making decisions that you go more astray than whatnot. I think 2020 really taught us that, because I think a lot of us believed in a lot of content that were created, but I think in 2020 we realized that it's so easy to be manipulated by data, me included. And so I always did that, just because you do it when you do research for so many years that you it becomes a occupational hazard, if you will. But I noticed that a lot of people, it was new to them, so for them it was like a new area to be mindful and careful of. I will create more content when, again, I get inspired thoughts. I've also, by the way, been invited to do interviews for other podcasts and other content creators, and I'm very grateful for that, especially because, you know, they are morally good people, so they want to also include you and give you credit for your work. So there will be more to come, especially as I feel more comfortable doing videos. But in the meantime, please watch Jeff Brown, subscribe to TechCrunch, and also watch these documentaries if you haven't seen them already. And that way you can position yourself better in the future so that you are safe as well. Thanks again for watching. I see you guys next time. Bye.